Next.js Server Actions. Some hate them and some love them. This video teaches you everything you need to know in just 3 minutes. But what is a server action? Basically, it's a TRPC. Wait, what? The library? No, because TRPC stands for type-safe remote procedure calls, which is what we have here with server actions. It's type-safe because we use TypeScript and everything has types, and it's a remote procedure call. Remote because it's running on the server, and procedure call just because we're kind of calling procedures. So how do we actually create a server action? It's so easy because it's just a function. We need a file, and no, this file doesn't need to be called actions.ts. It can be literally anything, .ts for example. And in here, the only mandatory thing you need to do is to add use server to the top. Now you have a server actions file and you can just add functions into that. But be aware that you're inside of the app directory because otherwise you can tackle some ugly problems. All you need to do in here is pretty easy, just saying export async function, for example, get message, and this returns just hello world. And congratulations, you have your first server action. Be aware that it should be async because usually you make some data mutations inside of there, talking to your database, getting some fresh data or updating users and so on. So you want to have this async all the time. But actually you don't need to do that inside of here. You don't need to have your server actions inside a file with use server on the top. You can also do it inline. So for example, you have a button with an on-click listener and here you add a arrow function. Then you can just add use server on the top. Be aware that this is async again. And now you have your server action inline and you can do all sorts of stuff you want to do in there. But since this is kind of ugly, we proceed with this way because it's just cleaner. So we understood what a server action is, we understood how we create a server action. So let's get now to the point of actually using them. So we can call them on the client or on the server, whatever we want, but things slightly change if you're on the client or if you're on the server. So this is an example of the client. Probably you need to do some things with a use effect here. For example, this is calling the get message function that we just created. But yeah, on the client, things are just a little bit more complex because you need to have this in an async use effect, and then you're saving this in the state, and then finally you can show it to the user. So if we go on that page now, we see hello world. Next thing is the server. Looks like that. Is so much simpler. You just mark the component as async and you're just showing the message, and this will look exactly the same. Hello world again. And now we might know everything about server actions for the daily usage, but what else should you know about server actions? The first thing is you can just pass them around. So for example, I can pass server actions to any type of client component or server component or whatever, but be aware that your server actions should be named differently then, because otherwise you get problems with serialization and stuff like that because the compiler don't like that. We don't get into this, but just give your server actions a action at the end. So you always know that you're tackling with a server action and the compiler is knowing it as well, and you will not have any problems. And one great use case of server actions is actually using them in forms. So in forms, you have an action attribute and you can specify a server action in here. So we can go to our anything TS and export an async function send message, for example. Here we get something called form data of type form data. I like to have it more like that. And then we can just write const message equals to form data.get and message, and whoops, and then we can just console log this for this example here. That's enough. And now if we go back into our form, we can just say send message here, import from anything. And that's so easy because that's all we need to do. The button is automatically type submit in a form. So we take a look at this now. You see the simple form. I can say hello world, send, and what I should see in my console is hello world printed there. But you now might say, but Toby, what about the security of server actions? Is it secure to use them? First of all, you need to be aware that it's just an API call to your server. So it's a post request. So it's public. But Next.js removes unused server actions and they create encrypted and I think non-deterministic IDs. So you can't figure out the server action or can't figure out how it's called. So basically they are secure, but not 100%. So always secure them. And if you want to go really, really advanced, there's an environment variable called Next Server Actions encryption key, where you can set an encryption key. Okay, then you really go into big security in here. So I would say, yes, it's secure to use server actions. I'm a fan of server actions. I like them. Some people don't like them because they are fans of the library trpc, which is now not needed anymore, or maybe they just don't like the structure of it. I totally understand that. Everybody should make his opinion. Thank you for watching this video and have a great day. Bye bye.